the idea is that we put these three talks together because mentoring, some form of assessment, and health coaching are all different ways that we want to help our students make a living out of macrobiotics. And if we said that macrobiotics is a knowledge-based system with lots of experience and practice, we have, if you like, content, and health coaching is really the delivery system, if that makes sense. So it's one thing teaching people about yin and yang and the 5 elements and all the wonderful theories we have, but how do they realistically, or how do they practically deliver it? And health coaching came out of life coaching, which probably came out of people like Carl Rogers in America and others, where it's really empowering the individual. So if we're working with a client, the aim is to empower them to make changes in their life. And the basic principles for that are, this is taken from another professional body, but it's basically saying that we try to help the person identify their goals, as Bill said, and out of that they then create their own action plans. So if it was the diabetes issue, I want to reduce my HbA1c to below 7. Okay, that's the goal, that's the agreement. How do I do it? And then the health coach's role is to help the person create their own action plan. It's largely educational, because if people don't know anything about food and exercise and meditation, we need to educate them. But in doing so, we want to guide them into creating a plan that they can do themselves, which I think makes it very, very similar to George Sauer's writings, where he was very much about responsibility and empowering people. They have to do it for themselves. We're having a funny conversation, I think it was yesterday, but sometimes humans are very frustrating, and they pay us money to come for a consultation, but then can't do anything that's suggested, and you kind of wonder what's the point. And I think health coaching is one way to get out of that, because it's entirely up to the person. If they say they can't do anything, they won't do anything, and they won't achieve their goals, and it's up to them. We have to honour that's their way of going through life. So the process of health coaching is essentially education, starts with. Education, if it was diabetes, education about diabetes, education about macrobiotics, and the things that can make a difference. Then it's helping them make their own action plan. So how do I do it? What will I do? What can I do? So some people will say, I think I could give up sugar, but there's no way I'm not going to have my wine in the evening. Now, we have to respect that. And the evidence suggests it's more successful to work with people where they are now and help them make small steps towards a bigger goal, rather than a black or white situation, either you do it all or not. So part of it is a process. We then help the patient with their targets, and they need to be realistic. So if you had someone who wants to lose 20 kilos, but they only weigh 60 kilos, is that realistic? Is it a good idea? So there has to be some conversation and help them identify targets that are realistic to them, that they can really do. Then agree a start date, a bit like a contract. When do you want to do it? So it's going to be Monday morning, that's when I start. And then we agree a time period. And I don't know if you remember in Valencia when David Norris was there, he was telling us how he'd been inspired to start Macrobiotics, and the thing that made it work for him was that he was only going to try it for 1 week. Some of you remember that one? And having done 1 week, well then you may as well do 2 and so on. So everyone's going to have a time period that they can commit to. So it'll probably vary from 1 day, to several years. But less people are going to do the several years, and almost everyone could do 1 day. So in between those, there's some period that each individual will find that they can personally commit to. And that needs to be matched to their target. So if someone is overweight and wants to lose 15 kilograms, it's not going to happen in 1 week. That's not realistic. And so the commitment to achieve their target needs some discussion and guidance. What's practical? How much could I lose a week? And then finally, it's to agree a support process and review. So this bit may be a little contrary to the way we like to think, but numerical targets are much more achievable, and people tend to have more success with them than sort of more generalized vague targets. And some of it's easy, losing weight is numerical. I want to get down to 70 kilograms, it's a number, and that's easy. The diabetes situation's easy because people are measuring their blood glucose, or they're using the HbA1c test, so it's numbers. Blood pressure's easy, cholesterol's easy. Much harder would be stress. So how do you put numbers around getting less stressed? And so then what we were doing on the diabetes project is looking at how many times in a week, how many days a week would someone say they got stressed. So it might be every day, and how many times in that day would they have a stressful episode? So it might be 2 on average. So then the conversation is, could we reduce it to 1, or could it only be 4 days a week? So again, the targets now have numbers in them. Insomnia or sleep problems would be similar. So trying to come up with numerical-based targets means that there's some measurement and people have a lot more clear goals to achieve. But more importantly, in the reviewing of whether on target to get to their end goal, then we can see, okay, great, you lost 2 kilograms in the first week, sounds like it's going well, carry on. Maybe someone's not lost any, well, what happened? How do we make changes? We need to discuss, did they follow the plan or not, and so on. So a review process has to come into play, and some sort of support for that. I find that the easiest thing is to, personally I like to meet the person face to face, but after that Skype or telephone will suffice, and they don't have to be long, because if they send an email filling out what they've done, then it's more a question of just reviewing that. Okay, so very easy to train people to be health coaches. It's a very well-developed methodology for going out and helping people make changes in their lives. And as part of our courses, it really doesn't take up very much time. After having trained them, it's the practice of it, which takes much longer, but the health coaching principles are really easy to use and teach. I think that then the students have an immediate, if you like, procedure that they can go out and use. Misha was fantastic at teaching counsellors, and in the 70s and 80s, he did an incredible job. But I think after Misha kind of retired, maybe we haven't been as successful as he was, and therefore a gap developed where the people he trained carried on, but the people they trained, there wasn't that same flow of new counsellors coming out and so on. Maybe that's changing now. However, the health coaching process then makes it much easier for us to give people a very clear, easy to use procedure to working with other people. So we don't kind of leave them with a head full of knowledge and hopefully a body full of experience, but not really knowing what to do next. I think of all the models I've studied, the health coaching one is most similar to George Sauer's writings because it's basically uses self-responsibility as the essential model. It's helping the patients think for themselves, they create their own action plans. It's educational based, it's not really prescriptive. We're drawing out from within the other person what they can do and how they're going to do it. And it's highly based on self-reflection with the review process and so on. So I would say, in my humble opinion, that it's kind of a naturally macrobiotic process. It's very well researched, so you can find loads. I just picked up a few here, but lots of medical companies, the NHS has pilot projects going on, are using health coaching because for so many illnesses, they rely on the patient changing their habits, their lifestyle, and all the ones I mentioned yesterday, diabetes, cholesterol, high blood pressure, most intestinal things, all require changes of lifestyle to be effective, even with medication. And therefore health coaching is rapidly becoming the basic process for this to happen. So even medically orientated organisations are embracing the health coaching model. So the research is very positive. And I think then that if we are a macrobiotic health coach, the health coach wording gives us an immediate sort of identity in terms of what do we do. One of the problems we all have, and that happens on our websites a lot, is we talk about macrobiotics a lot, and that bit's great, someone's interested, but then where do they go? Counselling is, I think, very confusing and very hard to understand what that means. And if the patient doesn't really know what they're getting into, they're less likely to do it. As the health coaching model becomes better or more established, more universal, more widely recognised, the macrobiotic health coach, people understand, okay, they're going to coach me through a process, I'm going to change my lifestyle, and out of that hopefully get better. So, and I think if health coaching progresses in the way it's going now, as macrobiotic health coaches, we'll find it much easier to partner with doctors or other groups, because then they know what we're doing. Okay, it's health coaching, but it's got a food, meditation, exercise orientation, that's the macrobiotic word. But then they fully understand the kind of process that we're applying. And the good thing about it is if we're doing health coaching as empowering other people, it takes quite a lot of the responsibility away from the health coach. We don't need to be like a doctor. We're not prescribing anything. All we're doing is asking someone else how they would like to change their lifestyle and supporting them, guiding them in that process. It's their decisions all the way through. So in that sense, again, may not matter for us, our group here, but for the person who's just finishing a macrobiotic education, it's a lot less intimidating. You can go out and just start doing it. The fear factor's greatly reduced because you're not putting yourself on the line in the same way that we can do with counselling, which I think then makes, as Oliver was saying, and somehow we have to grow the our ability to train people to then go out and help others. And I think we could all agree that we probably haven't done that extremely well over the last 20 years. And this would be one way of upping our game and making it a lot easier to get more people out there with a structure and methodology that they can actually start as soon as they finish the course. So that's everything I want to say on that. So, yeah. And now I've finished, don't worry. And we'll leave it to the discussion. So thank you very much.